I think the hardest thing about playing a sport or really doing anything at a really high level is putting in the hours and the work. Maybe you spend 95% of your time thinking and practicing and putting all your energy into it. But then how do you not make that 95% of your self-worth? That is the hardest thing,
That's
and so for me,
sport.
I had to figure out, it's so hard because you're like, I'm out here, I'm grinding, I'm working so hard, but then, and I'm putting all my energy into it, but then how do I just free it up and go play?
Hey, everybody. Thanks very much for hanging out with us today. We really appreciate you being here. TLC presents Todd-versations. We got a really special guest today. I'm really excited to have her join us today. I'm a big fan of hers all the way around. We're going to get into what she does. Please, everybody, give it up for the senior producer and the host of social and digital content at Golf Digest, Golf TV, and hangs out with the United States Golf Association. Please welcome Hallie Ledbetter. Hallie, welcome.
Thank you, Todd. Thanks so much for having me. Excited to be here.
I'm pumped you're here. I'm really excited about this because I'm a big golf nut. Everybody knows that who knows me. I'm a huge fan of the LPGA, which I have been for a long time, and I get criticism sometimes from my guy friends about that. It's like, why? Because the girls are better golfers than boys are, and it's more fun to watch. But nonetheless, we'll get into that too. But one of the reasons I asked you to come on and reached out and started communicating with you is that I'm not a huge social media butterfly, right? But I'm on social media. I follow. I don't really interact a whole lot of ways. But of all the people that are out there, I find you to be one of the most genuine people out there on the planet when it comes to social channels because you're so yourself. It's so believable. And, sometimes social media is I don't know, performative in a way, and it's not really all that real. And you come from that. So that's one of the things I want to talk about because you bring that to Golf Digest. You bring that to what you're doing. So I'm hoping you'll share with my audience a little bit about your journey and who you are. Of course, I got 1,000 questions I'm going to throw at you, but I think it'd be fun for everybody to get a little bit of background about, why you're doing what you're doing, but why you're doing it so well, in my opinion. And that's something I want to elevate. So again, welcome. Thank you for being here, taking time out of your busy day for a low life like me to come out and swap some golf stories. And we'll probably chat a little golf. I do want to talk a little bit of golf at the end. I did play this weekend, which you're privy to. So if you want to throw me crap about that, we can do that later. But talk to me a little bit, if you would, about your journey. All right. I mean, you're senior producer at Golf Digest. You're doing some big things, right? And you've got a big level of responsibility. So share with me a little bit about what a senior producer and the host does.
Yeah. So, I would say the evolution of just even my time at Golf Digest has been really interesting. Golf Digest was actually my first job. So I actually turned pro after college for about 6 months. And then I was like, never mind, not for me. And that was a great experience. But ultimately, I always wanted to get into the media side of things. So I was my first, job besides playing golf was social media coordinator at Golf Digest. So got my foot in the door there, doing Twitter, Facebook, Instagram on a daily basis, running those social channels. And then I got an opportunity to go work at the PGA Tour as a digital producer, which was sort of like the next step because I always was really interested in content and entertainment. And obviously with my love of golf and my knowledge of golf, I was like, it'd be really great to be able to combine those. So got my foot in the door at Golf Digest and then got that opportunity at the tour, which was huge because now I wasn't only just, putting out the content, but I was able to create the content as well. And one thing that's so amazing about working at the PGA Tour is they just have, the rights and the access to everything at PGA Tour events. So really the world is your oyster there in terms of what you can create. So I got an awesome experience there, and I wasn't there for too long because then Golf Digest asked me to come back, which I never thought in a million years I was going to be going back to New York City just a year and just 8 months later. So, but I did. So I went back to New York and I said to Golf Digest, like, listen, if I'm going to come back, I really would love to be able to continue growing as a content producer and hopefully get some more on camera opportunities. And they were supportive of me in that. So went back to Golf Digest and my job just kind of kept evolving from there. I started pitching ideas for content. Some they said yes to, some they said no. Sometimes I was in front of
what
the
they
camera.
say no to. What they say no to, like,
well,
how crazy
to be
was
honest, Nothing comes to mind that they said no to, but sometimes there'd be something that it's like, hey, we're gonna try this on social, and then it did, the audience doesn't respond. So it's like, all right, how do we, do we ditch it? Do we tweak it? That kind of thing. So so that was, that's been it's just a constant process as anything is.
Absolutely.
But yeah, so I, continued pitching ideas. And like I said, sometimes I was in front of the camera, sometimes it's just an idea that I had just come up with. And I have an incredible, talented team that I work with at Golf Digest, which is, so for a while I was overseeing the direction of the social channels. And then when I started focusing just more and more on being a talent and producing not only social content, but content, videos for our website and YouTube and that kind of stuff. My wonderful colleague, Nicole Ray, started overseeing our social channels, and I sort of work hand in hand with her in planning for, for our content that's going to go on social, whether that's, promotion materials for articles, and videos that live on our website, or just purely engagement, videos, graphics, that kind of stuff. So I'd say that's part of my job, is working very closely with the social team and sort of planning our social content, and not only videos, but also graphics and pictures and that sort of thing. And then, but I'd say probably 80 to 90% of my energy is on producing content and, the on-camera stuff.
And do you like the on-camera stuff better than the social stuff, I would assume?
I do, yes.
Yeah, me too. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, but I will say that the social stuff, and having been in social for such a long time, because that's where so much content lives, has given me just an incredible understanding of that arena and what works there and what doesn't. So sometimes you might have a great idea, and it depends on how you, the dimensions that it's in, and then how quickly are you showing the title, and are you putting text at the top, and is it just a talking head, or is it captioned? So that kind of stuff is really, really important, because you can create the best kind of content all day, but if it's not optimized for the platform, then you're out of luck, and people aren't going to be able to enjoy it. So
correct. What do you think? You're traveling around the world now, and you've been traveling a bunch through COVID, like I have. I mean, you've been back and forth. What are you seeing out there now, as far as from a concept standpoint now? Do you think it's different communicating to people now in this environment that we're in, or you think it's the same? Do you think people are more engaged or less engaged because they have obviously a lot more people at home now?
Yeah, I think people are more engaged because they just, they have more time to sit around on their phones, which can be a good thing or a bad thing. For the brands, it's probably a good thing. For your personal mental health,
for sure,
the best thing. So it's important to keep that in mind when you're, deciding on how to spend your day. But content itself, I think, has changed, because stuff like we're doing right now, like a Zoom call, is so much more normalized. Like if you would have told me, I don't know, if you would have told me 2 years ago that I would be doing all my meetings over video and I wouldn't have seen my colleagues in a few months, I would have been like, what?
Yeah.
But that's crazy. So I also think it's opened up a lot of opportunities, because you used to think you had to be there in person with somebody to interview them or do some sort of content. And that's, granted, that might be the best scenario, but it might not be the most convenient or cost effective. So I think we're definitely opening up opportunities, and people's eyes are opening up to what is possible when you're not necessarily with someone else in person.
Well, 100%. It's not going away. I mean, I just read a story today that one of the companies has just told 40,000 employees you're going to work from home now. You can work remotely. I mean, companies are doing it in our space. Companies do it all the time. Mm-hmm. And the interesting thing is you're seeing results now with companies that are showing better metrics, having employees work from home than they did when in the office. They're more engaged. They're working more hours. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Right. They're working more hours. So talk to me a little bit about, I touched on earlier in the opening, about some of the misconceptions that you see socially, this misconception, and digital content obviously is video based. Social, we can call social. I mean, they kind of do interact, but what do you think the biggest misconceptions are when it comes to understanding the digital world for folks?
Well, I think it's kind of what I said before about like optimizing content. It's not like, you can't just say, like, the amount of brands that we'll work with, or that I've worked with in the past, where it's like, okay, we're going to create this video, and just give me like a 16:9 version, and it's like, that is not going to work on Instagram. It's not going to perform as well as it could on Twitter. So I think people are like, oh yeah, this is great. Like, I should create some digital content for my brand, which you absolutely should. You should have a social presence, because if you don't, you're missing out on potential opportunities. But it's really, really important. Like, you need to put some extra thought into the content that you're putting out. So I think that is probably one of the biggest misconceptions, is like, okay, let's just, like, it's not enough just to have an Instagram. Like, are you posting regularly? Are you posting stuff that people are going to get value out of? That's my biggest thing, is like, you look at a lot of brands and you can tell the ones that really have a good understanding of the platforms and what social should be used for, and how to, create relationships with their customers. And then other people that are just like, oh, I have an Instagram just to have one.
One of the big problems I see with folks that I work with in my business is that when it comes to social channels, it's super hard to get ahead of the curve, right? I mean, and I would imagine you're probably in the same boat, when all of a sudden it's like you have stuff you have to do Thursday, and it's like, I'm not even there yet. Are you really spaced out? Or do you try to be 30 days out on your social stuff and on your digital stuff?
I wouldn't say 30 days. I'd say we're probably like 2 weeks. Excuse me. I'm just getting over a cold. Yeah, I'd say we're probably like 2 weeks out, because, things change. If you plan a month, generally in terms of golf tournaments, that kind of stuff stays consistent.
Yeah. You know where you're going.
Right. You know where you're going, but maybe you're not necessarily going to like build that content yet. But I think it's always good to, especially for like the main pillar majors and that sort of thing, we're definitely planning 3 to 4 weeks out ahead of time. And I do think at least having a blueprint of where you want to go kind of frees you up for the other areas, because you're like, all right, I know on this day we're going to have these things. This day we're going to have these things. So if I know that I have like 2 to 3 plans, like things per day that I'm able to post, then I'm able to kind of relax a little bit and not feel so stressed. And I know I'm going to come up with a few others, that are in the moment, that are more reactionary content. But no, I think it's definitely important to plan, but also be flexible, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, because we see it just, in just this platform conversations we created, trying to keep up with the social side of stuff. I mean, it's just a constant struggle, because you never get ahead, because it's just, again, you're adjusting, you're on the fly. And I think that's one of the big things when I look at companies and I talk to them about social and digital stuff, about how to get to it. I mean, I think it's important that companies embrace digital platforms. I probably would imagine that you would agree with me, because it is a powerful medium. When I look at those platforms, I look at like 4 different ways of looking at digital content. And correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, again, it's about entertainment, right? That's the key thing, right? To get them on the hook. It's about education in certain ways, right? What is the message you're trying to get across? Some ways trying to be connected to people, right? You want to hold them there, right? You want to connect with them someplace. And then the other way really is almost to persuade or to get people to move to where you want them to go. Yeah. Do you agree with that? Or do you guys kind of follow that same kind of logic and path when you look at what you're creating?
This episode of Todd-versations is brought to you by RJO Produce. RJO Produce, closing the information gap in measuring fresh produce quality. Quality driven, quality delivered. Connect with us at rjoproduce.com.
Yeah, well, I think it depends like what your purpose is, right? Like if you're a brand like a Golf Digest, you obviously want people to go to your, like we're trying to, the purpose of your social channels. Like what is that? Like for Golf Digest, it's to drive traffic to golfdigest.com. That being said, like let's say you're a shoe company, right? Your end game there would obviously be to have someone buy your shoes. But there's a great book that I read by Gary Vaynerchuk, and it's called Jab, Jab, Right Hook. And his whole thing is about providing value, and then ask for something in return. So his whole thing, and gives an example, hiking boot company. If you're trying to get people to follow you on social, you need to be a good follow, like why would I follow this hiking boot company if I never even heard of them, or maybe I have, but like, why do I want their information in my feed? Well, if they're telling me, here are the best hiking spots in Colorado, and here are 5 good protein bars that you should consider taking on your hike. And then that third post is like, and we're having a sale on our hiking boots. So go to our website and check it out. I'm going to be much more likely to go check out that hiking boot website on their sale if they are providing me with helpful information that creates trust and a little bit of rapport. And I'm much more likely to, say, okay, well, I might buy your hiking boot now because I feel connected with you and you've given me something. So in the terms of Golf Digest, I think it's the same way. Like, we're not always saying like, hit the link in our bio, hit the link in our bio, hit the link in our bio. Like, we're providing you information off the top that you're going to find valuable so that, if you decide to take the extra energy and extra time to go to our website, like, it's going to be worthwhile as well. So I think it's just constantly, like, for whatever you're trying to do, providing value is so important before you ask your followers or fans or whatever you want to call them to do something, to convert it into something.
Yeah, no, I very well said. And I agree with you wholeheartedly. And it's interesting because for the very first time, we have, newspapers were the media, right? You wanted to run an ad, you did either television, which is very expensive and very limited, or you did the newspaper. Now you have this whole free medium, social media wise, whether it be Instagram, Twitter, wherever you want to go. And it does change things. It's very impactful. There's no two ways about it. But now there just becomes this difference between brands, right? The ones that are believable, the ones that keep trying to force stuff down your throat. I mean, there's some brands out there that do, they try really, really hard and they're never overly convincing from their strategic standpoint. And one of the things that I've always appreciated about you, and I said it earlier in the beginning, is about the fact that you're extremely genuine as a person, right? You know that if you're saying something, it's exactly what's being said. There's no waffle with you, whether you're talking about playing golf, whether you're talking about flying, whether you're talking about your fan, whatever it is. And I think that that's something that is missing in a lot of ways with digital. With you, I mean, where'd you learn? I mean, obviously that's an upbringing from your folks, right? We'll get into that a little bit, but I mean, being genuine is important, I think. And so my question back to you is like, how does that translate to you? Because you don't waver from that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, social media is it's a highlight reel, right? Like, generally people are putting their best stuff out there. And something that I'm very passionate about mental health, having had my own mental health struggles myself. And I just think that, like, not like you need to go and, I think some people, not like I need to go and, like, if I'm having a bad day, I need to go cry about it and tell everybody how bad my day is, tell them, like, people that follow me on Instagram. But I just think that a lot of times people, like, if all that they're seeing, especially, during COVID, when you're not seeing as many people in person, if all that you're seeing is everyone's perfect lives and, very watered down opinions and that kind of stuff, like, it just feels you feel alienated from others,
Yeah.
So for me, like, I always try to think, just going back to value, I always try to think, okay, who are the people that I love following the most, and why do I love following them? Like, there's a comedian, Heather McMahon, who is so funny and so authentic, and I feel like I'm her friend. Granted, I'm now very lucky to have met her in person, so that's been incredible. But prior to having met her in person, I still felt like I knew her. And I think that's how a lot of her fans feel. I mean, she's on a comedy tour right now. And people she sells out these incredible venues because people feel like they know her, like they want to know what she has to say. She has like inside jokes with her fans. And I think that's what, for me, I'm always just thinking, okay, who are the people that I like to follow and why do I like to follow them? All right. Not saying, again, like, you can't copy them because you're not them and they're not me, but what are some, like, tactics that they're using or themes that I see from people that I really enjoy following? And it's generally that they are very authentic and they share, they share what they're going through, they share their thoughts on things. And it's not just this, like, perfect picture, it's not just trying to show off their lives. And, they get to do some really cool stuff, but at the same time, they're sharing the other things as well. So instead of being like, oh, they're just showing off that they're on vacation doing all this stuff, it's like you're genuinely happy for them because they're showing you all the other stuff about how hard they're working and all their struggles and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. I think that's really interesting for brands to look at. Do you feel like that being genuine, that Golf Digest and the other platforms, whether it's Golf TV, everything that you're kind of doing, I'm assuming they're leaning in and letting you run with that kind of persona, because like you're out interviewing Julie Serving, whatever, you guys are out playing golf or whoever you're playing with, you're going to go out there and, be like me and be a half schmuck on the thing and kind of fire out some crazy questions. It just, maybe it doesn't feel right. Right. But when you get into that, I think, bacon and eggs is great on a Sunday morning type conversation when it's really, real. It has to help generate, I think, more interest in what you're doing, even on that platform.
Yeah, for sure. And that's like, I'm so lucky that Golf Digest has been supportive in that sense, because they, I would like to think that it makes for a better interview when you're more authentic
100%.
and genuine. And that being said, like, it's definitely a learning process, right? Like when I first started doing interviews, I was a lot more buttoned up and more, very much stuck to the script and that kind of thing. And so I think the more that you can learn to be yourself on camera, and the more that you can, it's just a comfortability factor,
Sure.
Like it's never going to be comfortable the first few times that you do it. So like for me, when I start doing interviews, my voice always goes up and I start talking really fast. And so I try to take a second to take a deep breath and say, okay, like we can do this. You're here because you're meant to be here. They trust you and your skill set. So let's just be yourself and we'll have a great interview. So I think that I'm so lucky that they, believe in me and let me kind of run with things. And I'd like to think that it makes the content better than if I was just very polished and, very rigid.
Absolutely. I mean, I absolutely think it does. And I think, I'm speaking for my own little deal we got running here, I think it is. And it's funny because my next question was literally like, what was Hallie 1.0 before we're talking to Hallie 2.0 as you've evolved down your path, right? Mm-hmm. So it's interesting that you started off in this, like, I've got to be this rigid. I mean, I've got to march, I've got to be rigid. And all of a sudden you're like, that isn't working. Right.
Yeah.
Well, that epiphany, was it something specific that you had that epiphany one day? It's like, God, this just sucks. This isn't me. I need to get more air in my lungs. Right.
You know what? I feel like it wasn't a specific moment, but I feel like any time that I was like afraid to be myself and then I just ended up doing it, it generally always worked out in a weird way. Like I remember this is like a very specific instance, but there was something that I was like afraid of tweeting. I think it was, I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was something that, like, I think it's hard going back to being genuine and, especially, over these last few months and year or so where we've had, a lot of social justice issues and things like that maybe you'd want to speak up on, but maybe other people don't agree with you and that kind of thing. And I think it was something along the lines of an issue that I was passionate about. And I just didn't know if I should talk about it on social media or not, but I ended up doing it. And I was very like, oh God, I don't know if I should have said that, but I did it. And then I got a phone call from someone. I believe it was someone from the USGA who said like, hey, I really liked what you said there. Like, that was really impactful. And they said like, I think it's really important that people say that. And then in the next breath, he was like, by the way, would you want to do like this interview with Jordan Spieth? And I was like, what? So it was just really interesting that like I was on the fence about, saying something that I felt like needed to be said. And then I said it and somebody liked it and recognized that and, was like appreciative that I was, said that. Honest. And then the next thing I had a cool opportunity,
Yeah, for sure.
And that being said, I'm sure maybe some opportunities have passed me by. Maybe in the same breath, maybe somebody saw that and was like, no, we can't have Hallie do X, Y, Z now but that being said, like, I've also come to realize that, and this is, I guess, when people say like, what's meant for you will not pass you by in a way like, if there are opportunities that I would potentially have, this is within reason, but if there's opportunities that, where I couldn't be myself or I had to, maybe do something that I didn't feel was right or that kind of stuff. Like, I don't think that I would personally be happy doing those things anyways. So you might as well just be yourself. And I think that the right people and opportunities and, like those will, they'll gravitate towards you if you do stay true to yourself.
Well, absolutely. But, you raise up a really good point that, you've got something that you wanted to press the go button on and you had that moment of pause. And that's really speaks not, in my opinion, it doesn't really speak to your words. It speaks about the platform your words were going on and the nature of, all the crazies, let's face it, all the crazies that want to jump on something, all the people that just want nothing to do but pick a fight, that could absolutely believe that the color red is the greatest color in the world until you said it. And now they're fans of purple. Right. And so, and I could see where that hesitation would come from. So I'm not going to put you on the spot. Do not repeat, you don't have to get into details, but I'm sure you've put something up where it's just like, that backfired. Like, you've got your,
definitely,
because it's not the first time.
No. I mean, it's definitely happened a few times. I mean, one thing that I will say, this is a good example. This is a kind of a sad example, but I remember one time this Instagram account posted so obviously, everybody knows Tiger Woods got in a horrible car accident.
Correct.
And I happened to be there on that day, not physically at the car accident, but I was a mile down the road because he was on his way to us, it was a horrible, horrible day. And somebody posted an Instagram like a few weeks later where they said it was like a picture of Tiger having it was like a bad day on the golf course, and then another day it was like when he got arrested, and then the next picture was his horrible car accident, and they were likening it to like bogey in the first hole, triple whatever, like. And I was just like, I think I commented, and it was an account that had like 500 600,000 followers, and I commented like, I was like we shouldn't be making light of a near death situation. Like this is not funny. And I got absolutely ripped by all these trolls telling me, excuse me, sorry.
You're right.
All these trolls telling me, like, calling me horrible, horrible names and being like, lighten up, snowflake, like Europe, like just horrible, but like then like seriously profanity and like attacking me. And it's just like, it was just wild, that's what it came to. And that's the kind of stuff, it sucks because you're like, I really felt like something needed to be said. Like, I was like, guys, this is not something you joke about, like somebody almost died here and is critically injured. And I felt like I needed to say that. And then I just get absolute, and people are keyboard warriors, and they know that they're never gonna say that to my face, and they might never meet me in person. So they're just like, I'm just going to say this and, try to hurt this person's feelings or whatnot. And it's just, social media is a very wild, wild place.
It's dangerous. Well, it's dangerous. It's depending on your age, it's dangerous, right? Quite frankly. And I'm not afraid to say that, but you're absolutely right. You take 10 of those comments and you put those 10 people in front of you, and I guarantee you 9.9 of them aren't going to say diddly squat to your face because they're cowards behind the keyboard. And it's just pathetic that we have this runway, but it's so, again, it's performative, right? It's not as good stuff, which is what, brought me to you in the first place, because of this genuine nature of what you're creating. Because to me, that's what sells. To me, that's what's elevating a brand. To me, that's what I would rather be associated with, positivity than negativity. Right. Sure. I just don't need it. And brands don't need it. And that's really interesting how some of these brands are learning to navigate in these times where you're even seeing some of these brands, and maybe it's not the right word, but they have a tendency to waffle a little bit because the wind blows them in a different direction, as opposed to staying true to themselves. And I think that's something that you've done. So, and I'm glad we kind of went there, and thank you for kind of drawing this question, because you actually answered my next question. It's going to totally screw me up now, but I'll come up with another one. But how have because you have your own personal brand, right? You got your 9-to-5 gig and doing your stuff, but you have your own personal brand as well. So how have you embraced it for yourself? I mean, because you're out influencing, I'm assuming you're out talking about some certain things. I mean, you say a brand name, it's going to resonate with folks. So how have you kind of decided what's important to you? I mean, granted, I think it's a runway we've been on, but when you're looking at your own personal stuff, I mean, Hallie Ledbetter, not Golf Digest, how do you feel about that and what you've embraced?
I think for me, like what I embrace, well, just going back to, I appreciate you saying that I'm genuine. That makes me very happy, but that is what I embrace. Like people feeling like it's okay to be themselves. And, I think that, it's important to realize. And I think in the you asked me when you emailed me earlier, like what one of my favorite quotes is, And granted, I tried to, somebody asked me this, or I just said it off the cuff one day, and somebody's like, that's incredible. Like, I'm going to credit you with that. I'm like, oh, I didn't say that. I just saw it on Pinterest or something. But I don't know who said this originally. And I'm sure a million people have said this, but you can be the juiciest peach in the box, and some people just won't like peaches. And that has been a lesson that, I've had to learn over and over again, is that you can work as hard as you want. You can, be your best self, and still people just aren't going to like you and aren't going to like the things that you create. And that is okay. And I think that's something for me that, maybe I'm not out preaching that, like I'm not saying that all the time, but that's something that I would hope that people, get from the way that I am on social media, is that like, you shouldn't be afraid to be yourself, and that people, the right people and opportunities and circumstances, et cetera, are going to come to you if you are yourself. And I think that if you're trying to, like, instead of trying to fit yourself into a box, then, you need to be, I think that basically the right things will come to you. Because I think for me too, going back to like, I used to feel like I had to be a certain way, that I had to, if I wanted to be like a golf reporter, because I thought that was what I wanted to do. I thought I wanted to be like, I thought I wanted to be talking to players after they finish their rounds. And then now I'm realizing that's not necessarily what I want to do. Like I like to bring levity to golf. I like to
absolutely
fun. And that being said, there's not necessarily like a job that is that, but I'm very determined to make that my job, like,
well, for sure.
And opportunities, I think that just because like a path isn't, and I think that's something that I struggle with on a daily basis, is just like, I'm very much a planner, and I like to, have a very clear blueprint for where my, where things are going. And that's just not always going to be, things aren't always clear but you have to just follow your heart and do what you feel like is really a great fit for you. And so I think like through my social media, granted, I'm not always like saying that kind of thing, but I would just like people to be, just, I don't know, it feels weird to say inspired, but I guess just, I would like them to just become more okay with, doing the things that they like to do, and, going, being themselves and not being afraid to be themselves. And I think that's what I would like people to take away from that.
I think it's a great lesson for the audience. And, as we're into this whole digital social conversation, that businesses themselves need to recognize that. Be true to your business when you're in your social channels. If you're a fair trade company, talk about those issues that are involved with fair trade. If you're an organic company, right, or whatever your case may be, stick to those, and don't force yourself onto everybody and try to be all things to all people, because I think you lose some of that genuineness that you've created, because you're not trying to do, to your point, like, you could go to the end of the golf tournament and say, how was your round of golf? I was going to keep asking that question. That's great. But that question's boring, as opposed to you doing what you're doing, getting into the weeds and getting to know people, right? You're bringing them to a different level. To me, that's what people want to see. So when I think about businesses creating social content, don't be boring. Don't have to be, you don't have to be overly risky when you go do stuff, but you do need to be true to your brand. Because, you talked about walking down a path, and I'll say it all the time. I'm a big believer in the path we're on. We don't necessarily know where our path is taking us, but one thing we know for sure is that we have to continue walking it. Maybe we go right and we deal with that path, or we go left and we deal with that path. But nonetheless, it's really important that we stay genuine on our path, because I think that's how you find the end, right? I think that's how you find where you want to be.
For sure. And I think too, when it comes to, businesses in particular, I think like we're making a big push at Golf Digest to really show, whether it's me or our writers, whoever, to really show a lot of people like that are behind the content and that are behind the business. So I think that like a lot of times businesses, when they make their social media, like I really love following businesses where I feel like I can connect with the people that are making the products. So I love, watching those about the founders, Q&A with the VP, or, like here's a Spindrift, who's a company that I absolutely love. And I work with a little bit. They did the other day, they did a really awesome day in the life of somebody. I forgot the name of the title, but it was like a day in the life of the woman that handles like the all of the shipping for Spindrift.
Right.
And I was like, that's so cool. Like I would have never thought about that person and what they would have gone into their lives. But you just feel like you're building a connection with that brand, because it doesn't have to, again, you don't have to, you can do all that stuff with a cell phone, and then even Instagram, TikTok, whatever with your phone. Sure. The editing apps are so easy nowadays. Like you can create awesome content with your cell phone. You don't need a big fancy film crew anymore.
Well, look what they do to this face on camera. I mean, I'm edited before I walk in here, so I get you. I love it. I want to shift gears a little bit off the digital stuff. I mean, people are going to get into the golf thing, but before we get into that, I mean, we got to go down there just because you're a baller golfer. We need to talk about that. We got to pump up your tires a little bit on that. But I know you do charity work. I know it's really important to you, as it is to all of us, is to giving back. I'm a big believer in mentoring. I'm a big believer that mentoring is so simple to do, quite frankly. It's about extending yourself in friendship, right? And seeing where it goes and how you can develop that friendship. That's really the core base of that. And I think you would agree with me that giving back is an honor, right? It's not hard. It's an honor, in my opinion. And so, I know you're doing that. And one of the ones, and I want to touch about whatever ones you want to go down as well, but I know one that I think is really cool is the Ugly Foundation. And, you've stood up, you've posted stuff up. You've got a very powerful message that you put out to the world about it. And I'd just love for you to share a little bit about that, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, so the Ugly Foundation is actually a foundation that was founded by a good friend of mine, Angela Garcia, and she is Sergio Garcia's wife. She is an incredible journalist and TV reporter herself. So I actually first got to know Angela when we had a Sirius XM radio show together a few years back, and she's an incredible, incredible woman. And she, has had her share of bullying, social media, whether that's, from her time on the Golf Channel, and people coming after her on there, just as they do on social media, or as now Sergio Garcia's wife. So she created this incredible foundation called the Ugly Foundation, because the word ugly is just, a word that comes up a lot of the times in bullying. And ugly, she's like, I want to just, take ownership of that word and flip the meaning and shift the narrative. So ugly, instead of standing, for the traditional definition of ugly, she changed it to an acronym, which is unique, gifted, loved individual, because that's what we all are.
Right.
So she literally just launched this foundation like last week, and she has some incredible partners. I think ESPN and the jewelry brand Kendra Scott are on board. So I'm definitely going to be posting that about that a lot this month, because it is, I believe it's Bullying Awareness Month.
Yeah.
So she's got some incredible initiatives coming up. I know she's going to be doing some speaking all around the country, and just sort of trying to shine a light on the harmful effects of kind of what we talked about, of social media. And I think that, social media can be a wonderful thing, and it can be a horrible, horrible thing. So I think what Angela's trying to do is just bring a little bit more awareness to the harmful effects of bullying, and also, just get people to think a little bit more about what they're saying, and, we said, like, spread love and positivity. Like,
absolutely,
there's no need to be mean and hateful.
Well, I think it's, I think it's really interesting when I look at, from my perspective of my gray hair age, about thinking about being a kid and what was on TV, what you said, how you said things, to reflecting upon it at my age, going, wow, like it was just nothing. Because it was just nothing to think like that, because it's just the way it was. But to have that moment of reflection, like in my own personal life, like, whoa, you got to slow down a little bit. You've got to drive more positivity in the world, because you got to counteract all this negativity that's flowing out. Because right now it almost feels like there's more negativity in the world than positivity. And I think it's because the negativity gets a louder narrative, and I think we got to switch that. Yeah. So, I appreciate what you guys are doing. I appreciate what you've said about your own personal experience and what it caused for you. And it's a big issue. And I think that social media is really a large culprit. I think social media at this point is probably worse than, 4 people on the playground in 7th grade in a lot of ways. And it's dangerous because we don't get to control it. We don't necessarily always see it.
Yeah, I can't imagine growing up nowadays. Like, I don't even know what I'm going to do when I have kids, like in terms of letting them have cell phones or social media channels. Like, obviously you're going to have, they need to have it because that's how we communicate these days. Going back to social media is a good thing. And it's to a certain extent. But yeah, I can't imagine having to, to deal with all of that. I mean, you're already going through so much as a kid. I can't imagine having to then deal with those pressures as well.
No, I mean, I see my friends with young kids now, and we have these conversations, and it's a challenge. It is, it's a challenge that, friends of mine have kids 4, 5, 6 years old. They're thinking about stuff I didn't think about when my kids were that age. That was not even in our wheelhouse back then.
No. Yeah.
Right now, it's like, holy crap, it's a whole new world.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing that with me, because I think it's just important we get the message out. I think it's just super, super positive. One of the big things I always say is go inspire somebody. So something like that's a source of inspiration. I hope people will get on the Google machine, type in the initials, and be a part of that. All right. So I want to switch gears a little bit. Let's go have a little bit of fun and talk. First off, podcast time. You just dropped a new podcast. So come on, I got to give you some chops here.
Yeah.
Penny and Hallie Can't Quit Golf.
Yes.
Talk about that a little bit. And you got, what do you got? 2 other ones?
No, that's the only podcast I have.
That's the only one you have. Okay. So, I was just wondering what you were doing on the 8th and 9th day of the week.
Yeah. So, Golf Digest actually has 2 other podcasts. They have Be Right, which is a golf gambling podcast, which is very interesting. And then Local Knowledge, which is a really cool, it's bi-weekly and it's a deep dive into almost like a storytelling. Like the last one they did was about behind the scenes of Tin Cup, the famous golf movie. And they had Kevin Costner, and it was a really, really neat listen. But the podcast that I'm working on is Henny and Hallie Can't Quit Golf. And it's with my co-host, Henny Koyak, who's an incredible journalist. She, known her for a while, but getting to know her. What's really cool, I think, for me, selfishly, with this podcast is that Henny and I have been friends for a while, but not like great friends, like we'd see each other at tournaments. Hey, let's grab a drink, let's have dinner, whatever. But we're not having these like deep conversations about things that have, affected us. Mm-hmm. So for me, I am getting to know an incredible person while doing this podcast. And talking about that's cool. That we really, really care about. For example, like Henny was still is an incredible golfer, but she was a bit of a child prodigy. She started playing in professional events when she was like 16. So to be able to talk to her about that and really get to know her, like these are, genuine questions that I have for Henny that then people are able to like listen to these answers that she's giving and that I'm hearing for the first time as well, which is cool.
Right.
So I'm asking, the questions that I'm asking are like genuinely from the heart, but, and then vice versa, she's asking me a lot about, my dad and what it was like growing up with him. And, but the premise behind the whole podcast is Henny and Hallie Can't Quit Golf, because we both have played golf. Henny played at a higher level than me, but I still, played at a pretty high level. And we both are still, addicted to the game and somewhat, and some, at this point, maybe we don't play and practice as much as we used to, but we both work in the industry, eat, sleep, breathe the sport. And we both, play occasionally, but we've all had those moments where we're like, man, this sucks. I don't want to do this anymore. But we all end up back at the golf course the next day. So the premise behind it is how that's our relationship with golf. And generally that's a lot of people's relationship with golf. And so that's the jumping off point with all of our guests is, what's your relationship with golf? What are those moments where you're like, man, I hate this. I don't want to do this anymore. And what brought you back? And then we obviously talk about other things as well. But yeah, our first episode came out 2 weeks ago with Brooks Koepka and Jenna Sims, which was great.
Who's he? Who's Brooks Koepka?
Who's Brooks Koepka, right?
Does he play golf?
Yeah, he dabbles. And then this week, I can't tell you who it is yet, but we have a very special guest that's coming out on Thursday. So
that's awesome.
Yeah,
congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, so it's been really fun. We have a lot of episodes already recorded, and then we kind of, we try to keep it as evergreen as possible because, I thought I had a crazy schedule, and then I tried to sync up my schedule with Henny's, and being a mom and a wife, and while she's on the road with her family and, doing live hits, and she's, doing the podcast while she's literally driving around in a golf cart to an interview. So we're making it work. I love it. A great time doing it. So,
well, it's what I love about what you said. It goes back to what we talked about. It's very genuine, right? I mean, if you're having a conversation that you don't see is coming, it's like, how great is that?
Yeah.
That's exciting.
No,
No, it's you
really
guys
cool.
did good. I listened to it. It's good. It's
Thank
entertaining.
you.
It's funny.
Thank you.
You guys are fun. So let's talk a little bit more about golf. Couple things. I shared with you beforehand that my first experience with the LPGA when I was a kid in my hometown, they had the women's Kemper Open, and I went to a practice round. And I was walking up the fairway with Amy Alcott, who's she's a baller out there. Yeah. She was amazing. Very, very nice person. And her caddy opens up the staff bag and whips out a Frisbee. And the next thing you know, I'm playing Frisbee with her and her caddy walking up the fairway. And it was the greatest interaction for a kid that's never been to a golf tournament, right? It was like, she was just so genuine and nice and spent time talking. And it was amazing. So that really hooked me. But I grew up with it because, as you did, but I grew up with it because both my grandfathers played. So I played with them a lot. My grandpa he was pretty damn good. He shot his age until he couldn't play anymore. So he was shooting in the 80s.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Like we should play like driver, 7-iron, pitching wedge, 1 putt, next hole. But that's just not the way it works. No, now it's like drive to the left, go to the right. Is that my ball? Yeah. You know how it goes.
Yeah, I know.
But you didn't start playing until you're 13, right? Even though your dad, and I haven't said it yet, but I'll say your dad's David Leadbetter, who's, a pretty darn good golf coach out there doing some big things in the sport. But you didn't start playing till you were 13, which is a little unusual. Not really, but it's a little unusual, kind of considering your mom played as well in the family business. But you ended up going to college on a golf scholarship. You played at Rollins College, which, by the way, I didn't know. I forgot to tell you this. We're actually related. Get this. Yes, check this out. My mother-in-law went to Rollins College, right? So she went there and she dated Mr. Rogers one time.
No way.
I'm telling you, I don't know if that makes us cousins. I'm not really sure how we're connected.
That's amazing. I mean, yeah, for sure. That's incredible. Mr. Rogers.
I just thought I'd throw that out there. Didn't work out, obviously.
Rollins alum.
Didn't work out amazing. Didn't work out, but anyway, nonetheless. But you won a national championship at Rollins, which had to be extremely exciting. So tell me a little bit about that. That had to be, because that's, it's an individual sport that plays as a team sport when it wants to, and it changes the whole dynamic of the individual sport. So tell me a little bit about winning the national championship.
This episode of Todd-versations is brought to you by RJO Produce. RJO Produce, closing the information gap in measuring fresh produce quality. Quality driven, quality delivered. Connect with us at rjoproduce.com.
That was honestly, I would say, I've won the Southern Amateur and I've finished like to high up at some amateur events, and I've won some individual college tournaments, but winning the national championship by bar none is my most memorable, golf accomplishment, thing that I'm most proud of, because it was my last tournament of my college career. And it was a bit of a mic drop scenario. And we finished second my junior year. So I was like, all right, last go around, like we got to get this done. And that was actually my college coach's 13th national championship. And I actually transferred from University of Arkansas to Rollins. I played at Arkansas for 2 years. And I just wanted to be a little closer to home. And a whole nother thing is like, Arkansas, like, again, I love golf, but golf was kind of like the only thing that I had there. And so I just wanted to be a little bit more balanced. So I ended up transferring to Rollins, and then I did the radio, and that's how I really kind of got into the media side of thing. But anyways, going to Rollins, I was just so appreciative of the opportunity to go to that school that I really, really wanted to win my coach another national championship. So to be able to do that was just really, really gratifying. And we had such an incredible team. Like my, best friend from when I was about, 13, 14 that I grew up playing college golf with was also on the team. And it was the same. What was really special too, it was like the same 5 from the junior year that didn't get it done. We got it done that next year. So it was like personally really gratifying, obviously, but to be able to like fail and then succeed as a group is definitely something that you just don't get, especially as a golfer, going back to your note about how it's such an individual sport. So to be able to have that experience as a team was just so, so special.
I think that's really cool. And as an amateur, you got pretty good. I mean, you got yourself up to the top 10 as in the amateur ranks. That's not easy to do.
I did. Yeah. That was a really cool summer. It was a very special summer.
Were you the only left-hander in the top 10?
That's a great question. I am not sure. I would, if I had to bet money, I would think so, because there's not many of us.
No.
But yeah, that was a really interesting summer. That was actually the summer between that I transferred from Arkansas to Rollins. Because I played at Arkansas for 2 years. I literally played golf at Arkansas my first year, and my second year I redshirted. And I was just kind of in a weird place because I was working so hard on my game, but I wasn't playing well.
Right.
And it was kind of like a catch-22 because I was working so hard. I put so much pressure on myself to play well, and therefore did not play well.
Right.
And so I decided after my second year at Arkansas that I didn't like golf anymore, that I was like, screw this sport. This is so dumb. Again, going back to can't quit golf. I was like, I'm not about this. This is the stupidest game. I put so much work into it and I'm not seeing any results. So I decided that I didn't like golf, but my parents were very, fortunately, and I was very grateful to them for having, paid my way to play in these wonderful golf tournaments that whole summer. So I couldn't, just pull out of these tournaments because we had put the money in and I needed to play in them. And I was still a college golfer. So I was like, all right, I'll go do it, but I don't really care how I play. And that was a summer that I played my best golf ever.
Absolutely.
I won the Southern Amateur, got to the semis of the Western Amateur, almost qualified for the US Open. Like I almost qualified for the British Open. Like I was playing really, really well. And by the end of it was the 10th ranked amateur in the world.
It's pretty great.
It was amazing, but it was like a very hard thing to grapple with. Cause like, wait a second, I decided that I don't like golf. And now all of a sudden I play great golf. Like what the heck? And so I had to learn how to simultaneously, I think the hardest thing about playing a sport or really doing anything at a really high level is putting in the hours and the work. Maybe you spend 95% of your time thinking and practicing and putting all your energy into it. But then how do you not make that 95% of your self-worth? Mm-hmm. That is the hardest thing,
It's
and so for me,
sport.
I had to figure out, it's so hard because you're like, I'm out here, I'm grinding, I'm working so hard, but then, and I'm putting all my energy into it, but then how do I just free it up and go play? So I ended up transferring to Rollins because I knew that in order for me to play my best golf and to just be happy, I needed to have more things going on in my life than just golf. So that's why I ended up transferring to Rollins. I was a little closer to my family. Rollins places an extreme focus on academics. Yeah. So, my professors are like, I don't really care that you play golf. And that was honestly, that was a little bit challenging at times because I was like, that's how I pay to be here. It's like, I left for tournaments and they're like, I don't care, Hallie, you need to be in class. And so I had to get the athletic director involved and everything because they were taking points off for missing class. And I was like, I have to be in a tournament. So ultimately, we got all that figured out, but that was really great for me because I all of a sudden had to really, not saying Arkansas wasn't hard because it was, but I was also a freshman in very, generic classes with 500 people. Whereas Rollins, you're sitting there at a round table with 15 kids and the professor's like, tell me what you thought about chapter 1. And I'm like, I didn't read it, so you couldn't get away with that. So it definitely made me, it forced me to be more well-rounded. And therefore, I had so much other things going on in my life besides golf that not that golf was an afterthought because it was definitely still the priority, but it's if I didn't play well in a tournament, there wasn't time to go sit around and mope. I had to go do my homework.
Well, there's no doubt.
It was just I was able to be more balanced and subsequently play better because golf wasn't the only thing that I had going on. And then we ended up winning the national championship. So it worked out.
So that certainly helps. Well, you're actually right. Golf's a really tough sport, right? And the amateur now gets that one shot out of the 94 that they take during the day, and that brings them back the next time. Right. And for somebody at your level, that grind is the mental grind. The physical grind is one thing, but the mental grind is what really shapes, I think, the difference between, the number one player in the world and the guy that shot a 97 on a Saturday. Because they have that mental fortitude to fight through so much. And that's a game. Golf gets in your head more than, I think golf gets in your head more than it does physically in a lot of ways.
Oh yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's such a mental game. And I've been so lucky to work with so many incredible mental coaches
Yeah.
But kind of going back to what we were talking about earlier, like being genuine and, doing what works for you. Like there's times when I, whether it's a swing coach or it's a mental coach, like somebody will say something and I'm like, that doesn't work for me,
Right.
And there were times where like maybe a mental coach would come talk to our team and I would be eating it up. Like, I'm like, this is awesome. This is awesome. And then I had a teammate that was like, I don't understand this at all. I'm not using any of this for my game. So, but that just goes back to like, okay, well, what works for you? What resonates with you?
Correct.
So
where's your path?
for me, and that's what I had, you have to find your own personal recipe for success in everything,
Absolutely.
And I think
Absolutely.
that's the biggest lesson that golf has taught me is like, I know what my tendencies are when I'm nervous, whether I'm on the golf course or I'm in front of the camera or I'm doing a podcast or whatever. Like I know what my, how my body changes when I all of a sudden, like, I feel like the stakes are higher in some way. So I think golf has helped me learn so much about myself, whether, because I know how to handle myself when I do get in these situations. Like I'm not playing competitive golf anymore, but I know what my tendencies are when the pressure's on.
When you need to. Yeah, 100%. So, well, I shared with you that I played this weekend with my son, which is a lot of fun for me, right? Because he's one of these, I hit a 7-iron, 210-yard guys, right? So that's
love that.
frustrating.
Good for him.
Yeah, it's just frustrating as hell. But nonetheless, and it's humbling because he can, I will admit it, he can beat me now, which wasn't the case a long time ago. So tell me how I'm sure you've beaten your dad. Right. I'm guessing.
Yeah. Well, you know what?
So
my dad, I would say my dad is a great golfer. Unfortunately, over the last 2 years, he's had a really bad foot and he's about to have his 3rd foot surgery. So I haven't gotten to play with my dad too recently, but we do like a lot of short game stuff and he definitely gets competitive. So we have a lot of fun. And then both of my brothers are professional golfers, very, very good at golf. So it definitely gets, we have some good family matches for sure.
I would think, and I would imagine that if you win or you outdo your dad, your mom's on your side, and then that just keeps it spinning when you guys get home in the house.
For sure. Yeah, my mom's an incredible golfer as well. Her and I actually, having been out in California now, I don't get to see them as much, but we got a mother-daughter club fitting a few weeks back, which was really, really fun. Because I hadn't gotten new golf clubs in a long time. And then she got them too. And I'm left-handed and she's right-handed. So we got to face each other and like hit golf balls for an hour and a half and get new golf clubs. So that was a really fun thing to do.
I love it. When you think about all the opportunities you've had on the golf course, and you've had a ton of them, right? And I've been very fortunate in my career to do a lot of golfing because it's just part of the business world and it's great. And there's some great courses around this country. What do you think the most fun you've ever had on the course is? Whether it be a group, whether it be an outing, that's a tough question. I was thinking about this. Like I was trying to think, how am I going to stump her right now?
Ooh, yeah, you stumped me. Let's see. Most fun I've ever had on a golf course.
Was it
let's see. Well, I would say something that I really do miss is competitive golf. I do find it very, very fun. I get really into it. I love match play.
I do too.
So I would say probably the Southern Amateur, where the tournament that I won was probably the most fun I've ever had on a golf course, just because going back to, I told you my mindset that summer was that I didn't like golf. And basically what I told myself was, I didn't say that I didn't like golf. Like I wasn't out there moping and lamenting the fact that I had to play, but I basically just decided that I didn't care anymore. So I was like, you know what? I don't care if I win or lose. All I'm going to do today is hit fearless golf shots and have fun. And so that's what I did. Like I just stepped up, hit the ball as hard as I could, like with no regard, with like absolutely no fear of if it ended up in the water, if it went in the trees, if I didn't get up and down. So to be able to stand over a golf ball with absolutely no fear of where it's going to end up and just hitting it as hard as you can at your target is the most fun feeling ever. So that final round, it was a 36 hole match, which was, and you keep in mind, I've already played 36 holes the day before, 18 before that, and 18 before that. So I am tired, and I am playing a 36 hole match against this girl, Laura Wern, who is now, I believe, on the Symetra LPGA, so very good player. And she hit her 3-wood airmailed my driver. Like she hits it so far. And so I was like 4 down through 9 or something. And I ended up, and my parents actually flew in to watch me play. And so to be able to play in front of them, because they'd watch me play a bunch, but to be able to play in front of them with like, just knowing that like I was going to be okay, regardless if I won or lost. I was like, the only way that I'm judging my success today, not on whether I win or lose, but by how much fun that I have, was like, it was so much fun. Like when you're just out there to be like, yeah, this is fun. And I think that's like for me, why I had a very hard time pursuing professional golf, because when you are playing for money and your livelihood, it is very hard just to judge your success on how much fun you have.
Well, 100% agree. Well,
because you're like, no, 100%. It actually does matter if I need to pay the bills.
Well, yeah, and you got you're spending $5,000 a week to try to make it work. You got to pay your caddy. You're missing a cut.
It's like, that's great that you had fun, but you need to pay your caddy.
I'm taking your advice because we're tied up on our match play. I'm taking your advice into the 3rd round we have this week. And I'm just going to go be fearless. And if not, I'm just going to cheat. If not, I'm just going to cheat. One of the two is going to happen.
There's a sports psychologist named Gio Valiente, and he wrote a book called Fearless Golf, which I recommend to everybody. And funnily enough, he's worked with a bunch of incredible golfers and just athletes in general. He happened to be the psychology professor at Rollins College. So he was my professor my first year that I got there. But he was the one that was able to help me sort of figure out how I could simultaneously, like, quote unquote, not care, but also continue to like work hard. So, and that was by playing fearless golf. Like, how do you go out there, work as hard as you can, but then just go out there and realize, like, if you shoot 76, if you shoot 77, if you 3-putt, like, you're going to be okay. So I would always write fearless on my wrist before I played golf, or no fear. And I ended up getting it tattooed on my arm right there.
I like it.
Just like, so I'd like to live my life. I like to think I live my life like that.
I love it.
Granted, I don't always, but that it's a nice reminder.
Well, but I think it goes, if you're living fearlessly, right? And if you're going out every day, and just take golf, we'll just keep on the golf side, but you're going out every day and you're grinding and you play without that fear. That's genuine. That's from the heart, right? That's nothing more than saying, I'm going to be as genuine to myself as I possibly can be today. And whatever happens, to your point, in the trees, in the water, whatever, just take that one shot and be fearless. I love it. I'm all fired up. I wish I'd go play today now. I wish I'd go play today.
I mean, for me, like when I was having a really hard time, like at Arkansas, not playing well, it's because I was like so afraid. Like, let's use an example of like a chip, right? I was so afraid of hitting a bad chip and not getting up and down that I never even gave myself the chance to do it, because it's like I couldn't cope with the fact that I might do my best and I might fail. So I just failed every single time, because I always had the excuse of, oh, I was nervous. I couldn't perform, Right. Because how much would it suck? Because we had an incredible team. Like 2 or 3 of the girls that were in my lineup are now on the LPGA tour. Like I had a really hard time coping with the fact that I might play my best and I might not make the top 5 and go to that tournament. So it was almost like a mental cop out to just be nervous and play bad, because then I never knew if I could make the lineup, So I love it. It is like, how can you be genuine and be authentic and play your best and do your best in life, and know that like you might not make the lineup. Some people might not like you, but like you have to be okay with it, Well,
you got to be true to yourself first and foremost, right? Yeah, if you're not true to yourself, then if you're not true to yourself, whatever you give out to the world isn't going to be genuine, right? And therefore you're always dodging something, right? It's almost like it's like telling a lie. You just have to keep telling more and more lies to keep up.
Exactly.
It doesn't work. It doesn't work.
Exactly. Yeah.
Exactly. Tell me, what do you think about the game today, from both the perspective, of between men and the women's game today? It's certainly popular as ever. I think the women's game is becoming more popular. I think the equity thing is always going to be a challenge to fight through, from a financial standpoint, but in all sports, not just golf. It doesn't matter if it's soccer, basketball, all of it. I mean, it's an ongoing conversation, but where do you see the game going today?
I think the game of golf is in such a great place. Like, just speaking, I can talk about professional golf in a minute, but I just think golf as a whole, the silver lining for, the pandemic was that golf, the popularity of the sport just skyrocketed.
Skyrocketed.
I talk to people at, club companies now, and they're like, we can't get the clubs out fast enough because it was the only thing that you could really do, socially distance and relatively safe for a long time. So I think golf as a whole is in a great spot right now. Professional golf also in a great spot, coming back from COVID. They obviously had to shut down for a little bit, but the PGA Tour and LPGA Tours did a great job of, managing that. And now they're back up and running. And there's some incredibly young stars. I feel like, obviously we miss Tiger. He's, we miss him so much, and we hope that he gets better and can get back out there.
Somehow I think he might win a senior tournament or two.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. at least out there in some capacity would be wonderful.
Yeah.
But we have so many incredible young stars, Victor Hovland, and Tony Finau, Jordan Spieth, Justin Thomas, like all these incredibly talented guys that I think are, back to our point about social media. Sometimes they're authentic. Sometimes it's just their agents running their social media accounts, but it's really great when you get a guy like Harry Higgs or Max Homa, or a girl like, well, she doesn't play on the tour anymore, but Tiffany Joe, who's an incredible, super funny. Now she's the assistant coach at UCLA, I believe. But there's so many awesome personalities on the PGA Tour and the LPGA. And I love really working with both of those tours. I used to work at the PGA Tour, and I know incredible, lovely people there. I really do enjoy going to LPGA events though, because they're just so excited to talk to you, whereas like PGA Tour, they're like, not like it's a hassle, but it's definitely like, you got to go through the agents and you got to, schedule the time. And, it's like, they got to talk to you and then they got to talk to someone else. And the LPGA, it's like, the players are like, we'd love to do it. What do you want to do? Like, they're just really open and, excited and grateful for the coverage and the opportunity to tell their stories. So that's why I like working with them. I mean, again, I like working with the PGA Tour, but it's just really refreshing to work with a lot of the women because they don't get those opportunities as much. So when they do, they're very excited and, willing to, do some maybe fun outside of the box stuff.
Like playing Frisbee with a teenage kid at his first golf event, right? And all of a sudden the guy's like, and I followed her career till she stopped playing, right? It was just like, I was hooked on it. And that's what got me really involved. Was I was like, the guys are on TV, but I'm following her in the sports page, whatever the case may be.
And I love hearing that. Like those.
Yeah, it was a great give back. Oh yeah.
John Rahm yesterday was playing in the Spanish Open and he was going for a three-peat, which would have been incredible. He ended up finishing tied 17th. So I'm sure he was disappointed, but there was a video of him saying that I'm going to sign every single kid's, hat, ball, whatever. I don't care how long it takes. And I think that it's really, really cool when players, realize how much of an impact that they have and like how much they can make someone's day by, doing just a small gesture like that. And how much they get inspired by doing that too. So
100%. Well, I mean, and it did. It inspired me and it got me more involved. The whole 9 yards. Obviously, my grandparents were a big inspiration as well, keeping me honored, just like your dad and mom and your brothers keep you honed in on us. That's awesome. What a great. Thank you for sharing that. So we're going to switch gears. We're going to switch gears now. We're going to have a little bit of fun. We do something at the end of all of our broadcasts. It's called TLC Trivia Time, and you have no idea this is coming. So I've got you in the hot seat right now. Okay. So are you ready? You ready for some rapid fire questions?
Let's do it.
You don't have a choice. You can say no. Okay. I don't think you will.
Let's do it.
You got enough. You're fearless. You got enough courage. All right. You ready? Which pop singer's real name is Robin Fenty?
Oh goodness.
Don't tell me you're not going to get this. I threw this question out to my family. Like, that's a stupid question. She's going to know that. If you don't get this, I'm going to look like a genius.
Robin Fenty. I wanted to say Lady Gaga, but Lady Gaga's real name's Stephanie. Pop singer. Robin.
And her actual, I'll give you a hint. Her actual name that she goes by is actually her middle name. Dun, dun. I'm going to stump you out the box. I'm digging this. God. You ready for the answer?
Yeah.
Rihanna.
Rihanna, duh.
I swear. I just
Fenty Beauty. Yeah. I use her makeup. I'm an idiot. Okay.
Well, I wouldn't go that far. All right. Here's another one for you. How long can a snail sleep?
48 hours.
Good guess. 3 years.
What?
I don't make it up. I just repeat it.
Oh my God.
3 years. Wow. Yeah. How about that? That would be the ultimate nap. I could do that today. In fact, I could curl up for a 3-year nap.
3-year nap.
Okay. Wow. 3-year nap. Give me one of your flying pet peeves.
Oh, a pet peeve of mine is
Only
when
one.
people, okay, when people stop in like an entryway. Like they like, like people are actively moving in and out of the building and they just stop to check their phone. I'm like,
Yes.
I don't have a problem with you checking your phone. Just do it like by a wall or something.
Yeah.
Don't stop in the middle of a door. So
Yeah.
that's probably that. Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree. And I've put my millions of miles in, and you're working on getting all of yours. So I've been down this trail a whole
Yeah.
bunch. I can give you about 40 of them.
Yeah.
Whether it's a guy that's going to the bathroom with no shoes and socks on,
Oh,
or
yikes.
the people,
Yeah.
to your point, the people that are walking to the terminal with their head down on their phone, and it's just like you have to move out of their way. Oh yeah,
Move.
it's time to do a little roller skate, like that's a roller derby
Exactly.
move. I
Yeah.
love it. What's something that's on your bucket list? You could come up with one thing you want to go check off.
Ooh, I would love to go. I really want to see the Northern Lights. My boyfriend and I yesterday, we were watching all these we were watching like music videos that were set to incredible locations. And we were just making this bucket list of all these places we want to go. And one of them that's at the top is definitely probably going to Iceland to see the Northern Lights.
That would be pretty cool.
Mhm.
Pretty cool. All right, dog or a cat? This one will get you in trouble. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. You know what? There's really only there's only one right answer.
No.
Yeah, I agree with you. So what's the proper degree of toast from not toasted to burnt?
Ooh, I would prefer burnt toast over not toasted.
Yeah, good point there. Yeah, you got to get something. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
not
I
gonna
need
work.
the crunch.
Yeah, exactly. You got to have a little something.
Mhm.
Hallie, you have been so gracious hanging out with me today. You have been just as I expected, very genuine.
Thank you, Todd. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me.
No, it is absolutely my pleasure. I truly appreciate you, but I do have one final question for you.
Yes.
I want to throw at you really quick. If you could give somebody some advice, about how to always be yourself, whether it be in the digital or social space, or in the media type world, what would you tell them?
I would tell them, I guess going back to my point about a lot of people, people ask me like, how do you decide like what to post or how do you know what to post? And I think it goes back to like, what do you like? Like for me, when I'm thinking about, do I want to post this photo or this video or whatnot? I try to think, okay, if I saw this on my phone, somebody posted this, would I roll my eyes? Would I be like, oh, this is boring, this is whatever? Or would I be like, oh, this is added value to me? And again, like to your point earlier, you're talking about like education. Is it entertainment? Is it education? Just add value, add positivity, add to people's social feeds, don't just post for the sake of posting. So I think that's what I would say is sort of check yourself. Like, okay, am I adding value with this? And two, like, what would my personal thought be on this content if it popped up in my feed? And if it's a green light, then go for it.
I love it. Again, thank you very much. I hope everybody gets on the social channels under Hallie Led on Instagram, etc. Go check it out. It's worthy of your time. Hallie's very entertaining. You're going to get a smile. You're going to appreciate it. Just being so genuine the way that you are. It's fun to be around. From the bottom of my heart, I do appreciate you taking your time out of your busy day and hanging out with me and chatting golf and chatting about digital content and everything else. And let's go play sometime. You let me know.
Let's do it. I'm down. I'd love to do that, Todd. That'd be great.
Let's go do it. I mean,
okay.
And we can play for cash if you want, but I don't play very good. So
let's do it. That sounds
good. I really appreciate you very much for hanging out with me and keep doing what you're doing. Be genuine. Don't stop. No matter what. Do not waver from that because it's working and it's going to continue to work for you. I'm quite sure.
Thanks, Todd. Thanks so much for having me.
No problem. Thanks, everybody, for hanging out with us. We appreciate you. Take care. Remember, go inspire somebody today. It's incredibly important. Hallie just said it, too. Go do it. Thanks, everybody. That was awesome, Hallie. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Todd. Thank you so much for your time. And let me know when this comes out.
I'll email you. Yeah. You, just real quick before, my guys in my industry are going to see this. Are you wanting to do outside influencer work? Because they're going to call and ask me. I can guarantee it.
Yeah. I'm allowed to, which is great. Yeah, for sure.
For sure. Because if they come up and say, how do I do it? I'm not going to, what I'll do is I'll present, if somebody comes back to me, I'll say, hey, Joe from so-and-so, this might be good for you. And I'll just send it to you that way.
Yeah, that'd be great. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much.
I'd be happy to do it.
Yeah. Awesome.
Sweet.
Well, thank you so much. And please tell Janine also, thank you so much for her emails and her work on this too. It's been great.
I don't know what she wrote, so hopefully it wasn't too.
Oh, she was great. She was great. Okay. She was asking me about Chubbs, our family's dog. So yeah, I would try to pull up a picture of him.
Yeah, she's got two German Shepherds, one of which we brought in because she's here. Yeah, so we've got a house. It's literally like two 4-year-olds. It's crazy.
This is Chubbs.
Oh yeah, I've seen him on your feed. He's cute. They're great. Dogs over cats.
Always.
You're awesome.
All right. Thank you so much, Todd. Have a great rest of your day. Have a great week.
You too. See ya.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
See ya.